My name's Jason Schuster, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. 50% of the United States population is deficient in 6 of 7 key vitamins and nutrients required to maintain health. 80% is overweight, and the average life expectancy is decreasing for the first time in a century. Methylation is an epigenetic process. You put methyl groups onto the DNA, which changes the structure of certain molecules and things like that, right? So if we want to have a properly functioning epigenome as far as methylation goes, and there's a bunch of other processes, we must have sufficient levels of a couple of things in our body. 5-MTHF, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, is the bioactive form of folate, right? So folic acid is not usable in the human body. You must have a certain type of gene in your body to be able to methylate or alter or convert folic acid into the usable form, which is 5-MTHF, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. 30 to 60% of the United States has a gene anomaly that makes it basically impossible for our body to efficiently convert folic acid into 5-MTHF. Right? It's called the MTHFR gene mutation, or methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase gene mutation. It's an enzymatic mutation that does not allow people to convert folic acid into folate. It's really incredible that humans can convert folic acid at all, because it's an alien substance not found anywhere on the planet. And there's only a couple countries in the world that allow folic acid to be put into the food, because most people have taken it under consideration that over 50% of the population guaranteed is going to have a problem with eating folic acid. And folic acid is put in every single non-organic grain that we have in the United States. So again, this is testable. You can find out if you have one of these gene mutations. I do for sure, right? So just real quick example for me, if I eat stuff with folic acid in it, the back of my head and my ears get itchy within like an hour, and they'll start to flake, and it's all nasty, right? If I don't eat folic acid, that doesn't happen. The reason is because I do have one of the MTHFR gene mutations, and my body can't efficiently or can't at all break down folic acid into methylfolate, which is the usable form. Right? So it's just like putting water, it's like putting a few drops of water in your gas tank every time you fill up your gas. Right? The car's made to run on gas. It's not made to run on folic acid, or not made to run on water. Our body is made to run on 5-MTHF, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. It's not made to run on folic acid. So it requires extra energy of our body. It requires extra energy of every human's body to be eating folic acid, because it has to be converted through multiple steps into 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. If you're just eating methyl tetrahydrofolate itself, 5-MTHF itself, your body does not have to break it down into anything. You're putting the bioactive usable form into your body already, right? So this is one of the things that will lead to elevated homocysteine levels in your body, amino acid dysfunction, cardiovascular disease, mental health disorders, all types of stuff, right? Again, this is something that 30 to 60% of the United States suffers with, and I guarantee you 0% of patients in the United States have ever been told this by their doctor, because I've never heard this from any doctor, right? It's very, very disturbing, except for people like Mark Hyman and Dr. Peter Tia and stuff like that, right? Regular primary care doctors or mainstream medicine don't know this stuff exists, which is absolutely unacceptable. Okay, so to have a properly functioning conversion system from folic acid to 5-MTHF, or for a bunch of other things that need to be methylated, we need to have proper amounts of active folate, active vitamin B12, active vitamin B6, active vitamin B2, active magnesium, betaine, and vitamin D, right? So again, 70% of the United States population is deficient in magnesium. 95% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. So just based off of those two facts, if you are eating folic acid and you actually do have the ability to break down folic acid into 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, there's a 95% chance that your body can't do it properly because you're deficient in vitamin D. So being deficient in vitamin D does not allow normal methylation of proteins and anything like that in our body, normal methylation of RNA, normal methylation of DNA, if you're vitamin D deficient, which 95% of the United States population is, right? Our methylation process is not functioning well, meaning we're getting way too many misfolded proteins that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Our body has to gobble it up and clean it all up. That all requires energy. It drains our autonomic nervous system reserve well of ATP energy. It drains that, and at a certain point, the well runs dry, and then our body has to make really hard decisions on where to use the available energy because there's not enough energy available for everything. So that's a very, very simple, quick rundown of one of the processes in the epigenome that is controlled by the amount of proper nutrients that we do or do not have in our body, right? So again, this is why eating well makes you healthier, and it's why eating poorly makes you sicker. If you can get your patients to understand the why behind it, they're much, much more likely to follow instructions and do good things for their own health, right? If they don't, at least for me, if I don't understand why somebody's telling me something, I just basically don't listen to it, right? So I like to know why, and I think this is just a regular human condition. This is what happens, you guys, to 30 to 60% of the United States population. 30 to 60% of the United States population has an MTHFR gene mutation that does not allow them to properly methylate folic acid into methyl tetrahydrofolate, right? And it's called unmetabolized folic acid syndrome. So this is something that happens, like I mentioned before, with gluten protein and the lactose protein. If you're eating a ton of folic acid and your body can't break it down, you actually, and it's a little counterintuitive to think about, you actually end up with excess 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate levels in your body. So I know I just said that that's the bioactive form and folic acid is the non-bioactive form. But what happens, like so many other synthetic molecules that we're not used to eating, they have a higher affinity for the receptors on the postsynaptic cleft side than the natural substance does. So if you're eating a lot of folic acid and you have one of the gene mutations, you actually do have methyl tetrahydrofolate in your body, but our cells have a higher affinity for folic acid. So then you end up with all of our postsynaptic clefts being utilized by folic acid, which is not an actual usable form. So they're just taking up space and energy. And then we get excesses of methyl tetrahydrofolate and homocysteine and some other proteins and peptides, which just cause widespread dysfunction in our body. It leads to decreased ATP production, hypoxia, mental health disorders, all sorts of stuff, right? So again, this is fixable stuff for everybody in the United States if you have the proper knowledge and understanding of what you need to get tested for and how you can fix it. And again, this is not information that anybody has. I mean, more or less, 0 doctors in the United States know anything about any of this stuff. There's some of them, obviously, but there's very, very, very few. Right? And basically 0 of the general public knows about this. So this is why it's so exciting for me, you guys, is that we have the ability to improve our patients' health and to improve our own health so much more than people think we do. It's just basically not knowing what you don't know, or knowing what you don't know. That's the problem. If this was interesting to you guys, and it seems like something that you would want to implement into your practice, which I recommend that everybody does, if you want to make your patients healthier, or if you're not a medical practitioner and you want to be healthier, this is absolutely 100% vital information to have, because without it, you just can't rely on a regular mainstream medical doctor to know any of this stuff, because they don't. Right? So if you just want to hope that somebody is treating you well, don't pay attention to any of this stuff. If you want to take your health and the health of your patients into your own hands, this stuff is 100% necessary to know.